Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Diesel and Iron. My name is Rick Velko. That's too much. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. Bloopers. Hey guys, welcome back to Diesel and Iron to another episode and a Down and Dirty. We just talked about contracts a little bit ago in the last one. We're going to kind of introduce what a change order might be on a job site and how to go about it and what a change order is. Seems pretty simple, pretty straightforward. A change order is something when a scope of work has been designed and been built and you got a contract for a binding contract and you're moving forward steps 1 through 10. And let's say we're going to move this concrete from point A to point B. That's what it's supposed to be. And that's all we bid, was moving this concrete from point A to point B. Then all of a sudden, as we start digging into this concrete pile and we're ripping out and removing, all of a sudden we hit a subgrade issue. The truck starts sinking or the ground starts pumping. The geotech on the job says, hey, whoa, that needs to be cut out and removed and filled in with some fabric and some 1x3. Class 2 sand. I don't know. Whatever he decides that it wants to be. He says it's going to be X amount of feet long. It's going to be X amount of feet deep. You got to stop. You could continue on with the concrete removal. But don't just dive right into cutting out a subgrade, throwing it in trucks, hauling it away. There's a couple things that go in there that need to happen right away. That's where a change order comes in. It's above and beyond the scope of work. And that's when you start documenting. You start taking more pictures. Remember we talked about pictures last time. You start spray painting the ground. You get a hold of maybe the company or the homeowner or representative that you're working for. Then you say, hey, got an issue. We need to go there and address it and see what it is, what is going on. Most of the time, everybody already knows what your scope of work was. Change orders are pretty straightforward. But like I said, just don't start diving into it. So what happens is obviously before you start your change order, you got to know what the scope of work is for this. You got to know where everything's going. You got to know steps 1 through 10 for this change order. And you got to write it all down. You need to get another contract or another change order with your letterhead on it. Sign with the scope of work, what it entails, and obviously maybe a unit price or time and material. However you want to go about it, it's fine, but you just need to get paid for that extra scope of work. If you start ripping right into that subgrade and you just start ripping it out, taking it out, 95% of the people are going to tell you you own it and that's yours, and guess what? How much money it costs and how much labor and work you're out. As soon as you touched it, you owned it because you initiated it and it wasn't a change order, and they're going to just assume that it was in part of your general scope of work in that contract that you had. So most of the time there isn't a geotech on site, and depending on the job that you're at, and if there is, they've already started taking measurements, and by then somebody's already been notified, and it's kind of straightforward and the steps move. Well, what happens if you're working for a small builder and he's not aware of it, and on the phone he just says, hey, by the way, go ahead and just take care of that. We'll pay you for it. Well, let me tell you, that verbal phone call means nothing, absolutely nothing. So if you go ahead and start tearing into that subgrade because it wasn't in your scope of work, and he just by golly says you go ahead and handle it, and you touch it, you own it, you are taking 100% responsibility of what's going on with the subgrade issue. Now, you have nothing in writing. Just because that verbal phone call happened doesn't mean he's going to pay the bill or even acknowledge it. Because at the end, let's say it was a $5,000 change order, for example. You get to the end, you get the work completed, you ship him the bill for $5,000. He knows nothing about this, lo and behold, and he's not willing to pay for it. But you told me on the telephone. Well, guess what, guys? You owned it because you touched it. If you stopped and you said, hey, by the way, Jim, ran into this, ran into some of these issues. It's out of our scope of work. How do you want to handle this? Put the ball in their court. How do you want to handle this? Well, let me think about it. I'll get back to you. Typically, they're going to call you right back, or if someone has the experience, they're going to make the call right then and there, or get a third-party testing involved, or just, do what's right because it needs to be cut out. Maybe it's something simple like throwing some number 4 fabric down, throwing some 1x3 in. We'll overlook it. Just keep going with it. Okay, that's fine. But now he's acknowledged it, so you either shoot an email, which an email is a professional documentation that corresponds with a change order contract. You could shoot over on an app or something or a piece of paper and get a signature. And get a signature of what this includes, how many square feet or length and width, depth, what you're doing, steps 1 through 10. And then you need a signature. And then also, guys, you're going to want to probably take some pictures. Believe it or not, pictures stand up in court. Pictures stand up when people don't remember. And even if you have a change order, they might go, okay, what's this bill for? I don't remember. You go, oh, by the way, we cut the grade from here and we had to go here. Here's what was done to bring the grade back up to level so we could proceed. Remember that conversation? Now all of a sudden you spark the memory on, oh, I remember that. And they just hand you a check and add it to your bill or your invoice or whatever. Change orders, guys, are just a simple another contract that's a version of the big one, right? And it's just, lo and behold, we're doing X amount of work. It's out of our scope. We're going to get paid for it. Again, this stands up in court. This also is something that both parties are in agreement with. Being a homeowner or a builder and the contractor, you got to know what you're getting for. And they got to also know, hey, at a cutting point, let's say they award $10,000 not to exceed. And let's say you do the work, unit price up to X amount of square feet, and you hit the $10,000 mark. That contract stops right then and there. They have to go back to the drawing board, where they go back to the bank, they dig deeper in their wallet, or they just flat out don't have any more money to spend. Well, that's a simple, hey, the job's going to stop from right there, not to exceed anymore. You could still do the initial scope of work of moving the concrete from point A to point B, but the subgrade has stopped. The issue has stopped right there. It's documented, everything's flagged. You still get paid for the first contract and the first change order. But hey, we got to go back to the drawing board, and it happens all the time. It's okay. It's the unknowns that happen. If you got any questions, got any comments, just drop them down below. Love to hear some more. Talk to you guys.